let me attempt to follow up on S0597 spherical. You're going to live to a degree of joy that is still within your range of peace. You're optimizing between change and not change. No change is death. Too much change is chaos. And that's a frightening experience. Because chaos can bring annihilation very quickly. Well, it is annihilation in a way. So, on the left-hand side, there's zero. On the right-hand side, the horizontal axis, there's death. In other words, zero again. Zero in the other dimension of peace, no, of joy. So, you start from death, all right? And you come into existence. And you find some things bring joy. And you move right in time to a point where your joy is maximized. But beyond a certain point, more and more change reduces your level of joy. It's more than you can handle. In other words, I'm not sure. Let me start again. It's a good shot, but I want to start again. I enjoy change, so my joy rises as I increase the amount of variety and change I experience. But there comes a time when too much change results in my joy declining. In other words, my peace is not maintained. I get more peace with some joy, you see. But too much joy, I think I'm equating joy with change. If I experience both peace and joy, look, peace and love seem to be consistent. Peace and joy don't. I can experience more and more joy that is just too much for me. You know, as Arjuna says, could you return to appearing to me as my beloved charioteer? I could relate to that happily and comfortably. Whereas this view in chapter 11 of the Bhagavad Gita is so awesome. I'm almost in fear, and it's beyond my comprehension. I'm not at ease. I've lost my peace. Could you return to presenting as my lovely friend again? So we get into chapter 12. Your life is like that. In what way? Is it in the way of your consciousness of God? There is a certain consciousness of the goodness of God which I can contain maximizes both my peace and joy. But there's a greater consciousness of God that's beyond my capacity. And instead of being in joy and peace, I'm exhausted by confusion, or being beyond my capacity is a confusion. And instead of joy and peace, I'm beginning to be destroyed. The consciousness of you, Father, is too much for me. I need you to be in parent mode, loving Dad, and the love of Dad to me, the love of Mum to me. That seems just optimal. I'm not seeking more, Father, because I'm not mature enough yet to experience that. By your grace I grow so that I can experience more. By your grace I become more able to experience, more suited to experience, more consciousness of you. I surmise, Father, that this is what you're doing, that you're following a pattern with me spiritually and eternally. That follows what I'm experiencing here in the transitory experiences of the physical time and space world. So I abide in the consciousness of you as my loving parent. I choose to be content in the stimulus to life eternal that you give me, which is not all of the impact of knowing as you know yet, but is appropriate to my stage of development. I am with Paul, I think, choosing to be content in whatsoever state I find myself, because I am choosing to live in the trust, the love of you, as I understand you. It is this understanding that is the constraint. And as I think of you more and get more understanding of you, I'm cautious in that I know I'm treading on holy ground, and that it's your kindness that allows me to come. At what you determine to be the correct speed, the correct degree, which is in accordance with your loving kindness to me. My trust is in you, Lord. I am not smashing down the door of heaven. I am simply abiding with you. Trusting in your loving care, that you hold me in the correct fullness of your being. Love you, Dad. Okay, then going back to the beginning of this recording again. It's a bit like when my wife and I came to New Zealand. It was exciting. Everything was different. We were in a different place, sleeping on average, changed every 3 or 4 nights. We kept changing because we were lecturing in 2 or 3 different places and travelling a lot up and down the country. And everything was new, and more stuff new kept coming into us. And I didn't have time to enjoy and reflect upon. In other words, in some sense, although so much was good, it was so much change, I was beginning to get exhausted. It's a bit like it's lovely to have a drive in the country, but after a few hours, you've had enough. You'd rather just stop and rest and sit and, I don't know, have something to eat and talk, but not just endless. A bit like my mum used to say, well, you've seen one field, you've seen them all. And you thought, well, a cute lack of appreciation. But no, there is a surfeit, and when you get to the point where you've got too much, your peace and joy declines. You don't want faster and faster and faster and more change. You're not up to it, you could say, yet. Give me more time to enjoy so much change, and it's lovelier. In other words, there's an optimal speed at which to grow. No, not quite that. There's something growing that I'm not determining, which is constraining the amount of change I can cope with. My capacity to cope with change seems to alter over time, so that with experience of change, I can actually cope after a while with much bigger changes, which no longer seem so big because I'm used to certain changes and adjustments. In other words, the big changes relative to my capacities are not that big as time passes. They become handleable. I'm mature. The rate at which I mature, I look to God to determine. All I do is try to stay optimally within my present capacities. In the case of Arjuna being conscious of God, chapter 11 oversteps what he can cope with, even with God's special gift to him of awareness. And so he says, could I return to the image I had of you, of my beloved charioteer? I've got a bit out of my depth. Bless him. So you don't want to get out of your depth, you want to optimize. You don't want no change at all because that's death, but you don't want too much change because that's too much. Too much by definition is exhaustion, problem, concern, stress. You seek a contentment, a balance of change that maintains your peace and joy. You are with Paul, St. Paul. I've learnt that to whatever state I find myself to be content. There's a contentment I'm seeking, not an ever-increasing excess. It's a bit like saying, this food is nice, isn't it? Yeah. Have some. Thank you. Would you like some more? Oh. Yes, thank you. Would you like more? Oh, that's enough at the minute, thank you. I feel just happy with what I have eaten. I don't think I need to. I mean, I could eat more to please you if that's what you want, but ideally, from my narrow point of view, no, that's just lovely. I'll stay with that. We do this with a partner, you know. He's lovely or she's lovely. Yes, you could have 3 wives or, 10 husbands, and they're all absolutely fantastic. But I'm happier just devoting myself to one. And in some ways that's deeper and lovelier. So we are faithful and true. It's not that we shouldn't love everybody, but we're not up to it yet. We're children. We actually like to be with our best friend. Until we get too much of such, and things aren't as harmonious as they were. Oh, well, have a rest, love. Have a day off just at home with Mum. You can play with her again tomorrow, can't you? You're going to help me with the gardening? Yes, okay. You see, we have a loving dad, a loving parent, a good friend, just there, optimizing for us. because we don't know how to hit it right. We really don't. So we live in the trust of the integrity and love of our God, our Dad. Love you, Dad. So I take care, or I wish I did, not to go beyond the bounds of my capacity to be conscious of your fantastic self, Father, but dwell instead within the loving boundary of you as my Dad. And you will enlarge that boundary as is appropriate as time goes by. Love you, Dad. Thank you, Dad. You almost certainly will have noticed that the beginning of this recording is, well, can I say pretty poor? I could have cleaned it up, got rid of the first bit and jumped. But it's illustrative of the very problem we're studying, which is I come in with a low grasp of something, but if I occupy it with just my capacities at that moment, I make all sorts of, poor decisions, poor insights, misinsights, and it starts to lead into, and I get a feel, and I know what I want to say. So and so is clearer to me. Let's almost start again, but not quite, because it is this poor start that's led to where I am now. Do you see, I don't despise my mistakes or my immaturity or my lack of experience. I embrace it as it was part of my coming to you. How wonderful. Now I'm an adult man of whatever age I am, ancient of days. I don't despise my childhood because I didn't understand things that I understand now. I value it as the path through which I came. And I don't want my kids to feel they're inferior in some way. They're lovely as they are, as children. Being a child is lovely. Being a child is not as competent and reliable and so on as an adult, but what's that got to do with it? We still love children. They're our reason for living. Isn't that lovely? So we're not in undue haste. There is an undue haste. It's too fast. No, I want to come at what you think's best, God. You choose, Lord. I'm just so happy to be with you. With you in the sense of, as I understand you at present, my mum or my dad or my really good friend. Love you. Thank you, Dad.